Hello everyone, V here. I apologize for taking so long between videos. Uh, this video I've entitled How to Make People Hate You because in a previous video I showed you how my daughter, my buddy Scott, his cousin Caden, were preparing to play GURPS 4th edition. As I was preparing the adventure and just getting ready and familiarizing myself with the system because I had not played it yet. I have all the books and stuff, just hadn't played it. And then I found myself remembering the good old days of playing Dungeons and Dragons, and it hit me that being more familiar with that system and just really loving it, I decided we're gonna play AD&D, and I don't mean second edition 3, 3.5, or 4. I'm talking about old school, right after Red Box. Then you had your expert set and all this, the box sets. This is the system I was going to present to my players. Many of you might recognize these books: the old Dungeon Master's Guide and the Player's Handbook. This is not second edition. This is, I guess, what you would call first edition, beyond the basic set. Good stuff. I love this stuff. Brought back a lot of memories just looking through those books. And so as I spoke with Scott, he did not realize that there was a first edition. He thought we went from the box sets to second edition, which is this was what we're going to play with: the Dungeon Master's Guide second edition and the Player's Handbook. So we decided to go second edition simply because Scott is much more familiar with it and it will be able to help me with the new kids playing. Be a lot of help to me, familiarity with the rules and all this, how the classes work. And he had actually never played the first edition. I love that system, and as I told them this, there was a little bit of, what do you mean? We just spent 12 hours making our GURPS characters. I said, well, don't get rid of them. We'll see what happens, but we're gonna do this. And they said, we're gonna have to make characters. I was like, yes. And they're like, But we met Saturday, got together, and I had done my daughter's character with her to get it ready, so there would be one less person having to do stuff. But we met 4:30 on Saturday, and within an hour and a half, everybody was done. Had characters, held off on the backstory right now because I had a module that I picked up at a local comic book store. It was a used module called Treasure Hunt, and it was an adventure designed to bring in new players to the game and new DMs really into Dungeons and Dragons AD&D first edition. And they start off as 0 level characters, and they learn their way through. And through the adventure, its suggestion was that this was a way for the normal people on the street, you and I. A scenario happens, and through the course of that scenario, become adventurers. It's kind of thrust upon you. So I chose that, but I let them pick what class they wanted to be and their alignment before. In this adventure, Treasure Hunt, they as the players do things in the adventure, you kind of keep note and say, well, you tended towards this alignment, or you did things a certain way that a cleric might do, or you did a lot of fighting as a fighter. You kind of held back and snuck around. You might be a good thief. If you have no, I didn't do it that way because I didn't think, as going into it, let's see how I'll do. If you know that you're a fighter, then I'm going to act like a fighter, So I wanted to do it that way so they could role play it. So we got the same type characters. Scott, he decided to do 2. He has a dwarven cleric. He has a halfling thief. My daughter, Kira, has an elven fighter, female, and Scott's playing male characters. and then Caden is playing a human ranger, no, half elf ranger. So it was really good, and we had a blast. We played until 12:30, 1 o'clock at night. I had a great time. After that, my daughter was like, I had so much fun. I had so much fun. It was awesome. I can't wait to play again. One thing I did encounter, though, I had read the module twice. I read through it and kind of familiarized myself with it. And compared to writing your own, I much prefer writing my own adventures, simply because even though I read through the module a couple times, it was when something popped up, they do this, players will come up with some wild stuff, you're like, if it's your own creation, at least with me, once I write it down and I think about it, it's in there, I can go off the fly, no problem. With the module, which was a good way to start them off. I'm not knocking modules. I like them. I've got 6 in the house right now that I'm ready to use. You really have to go over them a pretty good amount. Really familiarize yourself. It can slow play down a little bit, but they don't mind. I mean, while the DM's looking up some weird thing or trying to think, you can grab another piece of pizza or some chips. But I really like writing my own, so that this introductory adventure at the end of it, they've saved a merchant's daughter. He's very well off, and so they're now taking her back to her island, excuse me, her home island, to hopefully collect a reward and see what comes of it after that. So now they're first level, and one of the shocking things that happened, and I know the DM is supposed to not be for the players or against the players, just kind of referee everything. We started towards mid-range to the end. There was an encounter with 2 zombies, and man, we had people started dropping. That was not my intention, for them to come in with their new characters and then just start getting wiped out. I didn't care for that, for their first experience, but they defeated their opponents quickly enough. Right after we had 2 people drop, that they were able to, having gained divine favor, I brought them, a couple hit points above, for doing this goddess, doing right by her and treating her with respect and things like this. So I kind of worked that in to save them. I sure didn't want the first time out, dying. That's terrible. Which is what would really happen probably to most of us, if we encounter a zombie or a party of goblins or orcs, after the fact that you freeze up because, in the game you're like, oh, it's an orc, let's slay it. But, in real life you're like, oh my god, what the hell is that? It's a little different, but realistic. So they had a blast, and I'm going to start on the next adventure. I had 2 others written, well, 1.5 written. I'm working on the second half of that. But now I have a segue, and it'll actually be a good adventure to bring them to the mainland and stuff like that. So, if you want to, I kind of got off subject there. If a good way to get your players to unite together against the DM is sit them down for 12, 15 hours developing backstories and character generation, this, that, and then just switch it on them. That they'll come together as a group against you and unleash the inner fighter in them. So as I develop the campaign, I can't put too much of what I'm doing beforehand on the videos, because they watch my videos and I don't want to give too much away to them. But after the fact, I'll be doing that, and I will finally explain some of the things I'm doing in world creation of the world. So now, instead of doing the over God view where I typically get carried away, I'm very anal about stuff, making all the continents, and then where's all the mountains and where's all the rivers and every little city, and I get so, it's very overwhelming to do it that way. So I'm gonna do it in the fashion that I started with a little map, some islands, and here's the tip of a continent. I'll develop it out, a couple 100 miles, major things, and and let the story kind of dictate how I'm going to develop this world. And I want the player characters to have a very influential role in the world and the world around them. I don't just want, oh, these guys are passing through. Yeah, thanks for killing those monsters. I want it to be, man, you guys saved us. You know, oh, we're throwing a feast for you and this and that. And there's people here that need help, and maybe you can help us here. And I've got these problems. I want them to be very deep into the storylines. I'm going to try to keep a record of this. I've heard that some stories. I think there's a drow that is very popular from the D&D. I haven't read the books. Salvatore, I think somebody wrote the stories. Dritz the drow, I think. And I believe, if I understand right, he was a character that kept track of his adventures and wrote the stories. I think that's kind of cool. So I'm going to try to do that. Not that I have to publish anything, but for my own, I like to write. So I'll keep you informed better than I have been. I apologize. I'll try to do better on my videos. Both my channels have suffered, so keep in touch, and I'll try to video a little bit as we play. Just, you know, if nobody's ever played it. It's a lot of fun. If you can find a group, find you a group. It is so much fun. So I'm V. I wish you all well. I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving, and coming up on Christmas now. It's November 29th, I believe. So I hope all of you have a good Christmas coming up too, and try to avoid the massive hordes out there as you do your shopping. And I will talk to you later. Thank you for watching.